Hello, my friends. I'm Rick, and this is See the Table. We are looking at the BattleTech Universe book, 40 Years of BattleTech from the Catalyst Game Labs. This came as part of the Mercenaries Kickstarter purchase that I bought, along with a bunch of other nice little nice little toys and big old box full of stuff over there that constitute part of my birthday, according to my wife. It's what it is. Anyway, we're looking at this is a deuce of a book, $50. Uh, I found it to be entertaining, interesting, for the most part, uninformative. Now, that's unfair for me to say that because I'm very informed on most of the BattleTech Universe lore and history. While I don't know everything, and I'm not going to pretend to be that I'm some grand professor of BattleTech, but I know quite a bit, and I feel confident in a lot of what I know. Anyway, what it did do was it gave me some missing pieces, another few interesting kernels in some eras that I was woefully uninformed on because I was not present for the Dark Age or the Word of Blake, the most of the Jihad era, kind of veiled right as the Jihad was getting started, and so that allowed me to fill in a couple missing blanks in there. And then there's some stuff going on in outside the parameters. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about dealing with uh, all like the Periphery and the home client, some stuff that wasn't all easily accessible for me in one go. I mean, there's a lot of material I've still yet to read and catch up on, let alone novels and short stories. There's just so damn many of them. Anyhow, the book. So if you're new to BattleTech, this would be an awesome resource because it would give you a lot of that depth and that least a cursory understanding of the era and all that came before, and why so many old hats like myself get all weepy eyed and coolant happy when certain things happen or don't happen. Right. So let's take a little look into it. We're not by any means going to try to delve into this whole thing section, the entire piece, because that would be really a video I don't want to make. Too freaking long. So we get the credits, table contents, the book itself. I mean, they have a different. There's another version of some like a I don't know, a platinum version that had a different type of cover and a case that came in. It was really shiny and nice. I couldn't afford it. I was lucky to afford this one, and I wrestled with it. Truth is, because I knew as much as I do, and I have so much material already, I really wrestled with purchasing this at all. But yeah, I'm glad I did because it's worth the read. It's an entertaining read. This actually would qualify in some ways as a coffee table book. It's thick and big enough, heavy, and there's a lot of beautiful artwork and stuff in here. And so, if you're one of them people that got yourself a coffee table in your living room, throw this out there. And just for random people to come in your house and pick it up and go, "What is that?" Because you might entice people to want to play the game. I mean, that's a real possibility. So there was a couple things in here, typos that really threw me off. And if we run across them, I'll point them out. There's an actual typo in the print. And I'm beginning to believe that, no offense, Catalyst, but whoever you guys got doing your editing, they're dropping the ball, or they're leaning too heavily on the computer because there are other problems with computers. And this one has one in it too. There's a printing error in this book. And by definition, by rights, they ought to give me a different book. They ought to fix it. I'm not going to go through the BS of chasing that rabbit hole down that rabbit hole. But it's in here, and we'll see if we can find it. So we get the section on the Age of War, the Heron hegemony, the breakdown of the major houses of that era, and interstellar travel and how that was played out. And yeah, I found it. Good thing I didn't. It's interesting how you didn't have to go in. Okay, for anyone who has any connectivity to Catalyst, tell them on page 21, industrial mechs is a runoff because it doesn't make sense. Industrial mech owners discovered they could mount their weapons on their walking blank with little difficulty. So you're missing a word here, right? There's a missing word in here. Or when they put the artwork in, this piece somehow got buried by the artwork. It I'm having an issue with putting headings on working on my own would-be game, as you all know, because I gripe and bitch and moan about it all the time. I'm working on it. I'm about 40%, 45% my way through the core book these days, and I'm trying to put in chapter headings like these bigger headings, and they over when you lay them out on the page layout, they overlay on stuff. Then you have to tell the type, and if you, I'm sure most of you know how this works. You have to tell the type to either function tight or behind it or above it or around it. And if you don't set it right, it's possible for this stuff to disappear behind it. And then some of these are floaters. They literally float on the page, even though you anchor them to the page. So you have to be cautious because the print, as you're printing down your word processor, will flow back up to the next column, and it will be buried behind. Because what you don't see is that that's not just this. Potentially, there's a whole strip in here that goes through here. So this overlaid, and that's just basic. So this is a mistake. Mackie the Mackie. Then we get a breakdown of armors and weapons, and it's a good beginner's course on understanding why and how things work. We get a nice entry for the Banshee, the Mech Warrior, the Newton Knighthood, neural helmets. Then we have a typical BattleTech battle mech cockpit, the Star League, Golden Ages, blah, blah, blah. Get on down through there. Star League's Defense Forces, the Amherst Coup, Disillusion, Your Own Break, the Exodus, the Succession Wars, which, like I said, a lot of this is just rehashing old stuff for most of us, many of us. We all painfully aware of how this plays out and how it may or may not affect the game as you play it. But if you're new to the game system, this is like I said, once again, this is an awesome resource. I mean, you really can't go wrong with it. Got piracy. There's an entry for the Minnesota tribe, one of the greatest unknown mysteries, the inner sphere next to, because it's tied up with Clan Wolverine. Yeah, I got myself a Pepsi Zero going on here. Press out of the freezer, so it's a little slushy. Inner Sphere 2020. It's a 2822. Second Succession War, sampling of minor houses. The minor house section, this is something I really enjoy about BattleTech as a whole, because we all know if you play BattleTech for any length of time, you all become familiar with the major players, the major faction. But as I say over and over and over again, in a semi-feudal society setting, the secondary houses play important roles, and there are far more numerous. So all you have to look is the breakdown, and all the houses have their versions of them, right? And these are the ones that you want to interact with as a player level. If you're going to have campaigns and things like that, leave the big, huge super factions to the big picture and focus on the smaller picture, the local issues. So yes, the big houses are at war with each other, the big houses are not at war with each other, or the big houses are whatever, who cares? But within the big houses, all these little houses are doing the same crap. You talk about a house lord having a problem. The big houses have problems of keeping their small houses from killing each other in some cases, and that can bring a whole lot of interesting fun and possible things to to the living situation. Planetary assault, mercenaries, a cornerstone of the game. The games. Another thing I love about BattleTech, I really have since the early days, is that they do their level best to cater to every possible scenario you might want to envision. So perhaps you guys want to have arena combat. They just want to get in and beat on each other. Well, bing, bang, boom, welcome to Solaris and all the rules that sets and boxes and other things that allow us to do that. We want to have aerospace combat. We want to have naval combat. We have ground combat. It's all here. The rules are there. They've covered all of it. You want to have the grand scheme of things where you're moving entire armies across vast distances of space. There's a game for that. If you want to be the intimate level of you and your lance mates fighting the good fight or holding off the whatever or being the bandits and the pirates, fine. It's all doable. It's all great. great. That's the beautiful thing about BattleTech. It's such a rich and diverse setting. There's so much that you can do here, and ideally, you probably wouldn't run out of things to do unless you're really trying hard to come into that problem. So we have the Inner Sphere 2864. After of course, the Star League is finished and House Cameron's gone, so the Terran hegemony's been absorbed by the houses. Third Succession War, which is where most of us old players came into the game. We started in 3025, and the Third Succession War was just starting to wind down. Even though nobody knew it at the time, except the creators. So we got Lost Tech, the evolution of the battle mech, showing a Thunderbolt. We got printed neural helmets and salvage and Franken mechs. See, I love that fact that they still incorporate art that goes from the earliest days. And Wilson's Hussars, the unit everybody loved to hate on. I always use them as an example that there's no such thing as too small and too wolfy of a damn unit. Franken mechs, the matter of scale. Keeping the wheels turning section on the technology. So Inner Sphere 3025, like I said, when I was first introduced to the game, when a big chunk of us old timers were introduced to the game for Succession War, I was there, Junior. I was there when that compelling nut started scrambling around and grabbing every plate in front of him. He said, "Save the plates. It's a conspiracy," and he was right. It was a conspiracy. At the helm, the Fourth Succession War. You get the War of 3039, the Comm Guards, Inner Sphere 3050, the Clan Invasion, right? Operation Revival. I was there for all this too. It was a great time. So the Krinsky children, plans of blah blah blah. Battler, Omnitech, Timberwolf. There's a few kernels of new stuff that crop up in here, and that's good. They didn't just carte blanche cut and paste everything from other stuff. Is what I'm saying is they rewrote the entries, but a lot of these entries are entries from previous stuff or based on the previous stuff, obviously. So hey, it is what it is. The Battle of Tukya, right? Word of Blake. Inner Sphere 3052. The Truce Years. Martha Pride. Twilight of Smoke Jaguars. Frankly, guys, Catalyst, no offense, Catalyst. Catalyst! What's wrong with you people? You should have left the Smoke Jaguars dead. Why the hell would you resurrect them? I mean, they died a brutal death, and they died in spectacular fashion and true clan way. And the clan found out. They effed around with the Inner Sphere and found out because the Inner Sphere came out and beat them to death. It's Loci bad mouthing the Hulk. It's just not a smart thing to do. All right, not a smart thing to do. So the Inner Sphere crushed Smoke Jaguars, and they should have stayed crushed. They should stay dead. Just like we say that Clan Wolverine is gone and dead, and they're not going to bring it back. Blah, blah blah. Well, so should this. This should be dead. Smoke Jaguar should be dead. No, this imitation that they've resurrected, that Alec Ward resurrected, no, I'm sorry. Civil War, the Federated Commonwealth, Operation Guerrero, other conflicts. One of my issues with this era and specifically was that it felt rushed. And it wasn't until the following year when FASA bellied up that we realized probably why that the FedCom Civil War was not as properly and thoroughly represented as a lot of other eras were in the past. We also have a better understanding of how come the Dark Ages and the Jihad era was such effed up, and it was because of it's outside the game universe issues. When you have FASA, who was the sole creator, controlling creator at the moment, broken up, the owner sells, and then he sells bits and pieces of it. So Microsoft gets a piece of it, and Hasbro, eventually gets a piece of it, and this causes, or not Hasbro, but yeah, who the hell owns it? Because I know Catalyst is a franchise, or have franchise rights. The Catalyst doesn't actually own this franchise. They're under license, I think, from is it Hasbro? Anyway, they really rushed toward the end, and they could have done better. There was so many lost opportunities. The Fed comes, Civil War. That's what I'm talking about. So many lost opportunities. We could have had more. It felt at the end they just kind of, I don't know. So I get the section on interstellar corporations. This is a section of factions in BattleTech that I'm a big fan of and have been forever. And it just reinforces my concept of who do you fight for? You can create a unit. So you get 3 players, you give them an NPC, or you just have them 3 players in the lands. They're always short. They're always short of hand because they're not comfortable taking in the next Yahoo until they actually get a flesh and blood person to play the slot. So solo player, one individual player against the world. So you could be having careers where you work for corporations in various forms and or you're in as mercenaries. You're always being interacting with corporations on one level or another. So the opportunities there are quite vast. And we get into the section of the jihad. And like I said, there was some stuff in here that I've read a lot since I returned, and I got much better understanding. I also, really think that the jihad was halfway. I don't know, something in it, something about it just kind of rubbed me wrong on a number of levels. Their use of the extreme use of cybernetics and body modifications for genetic manipulations, for example, uh, pushed it in my mind closer and closer to Shadowrun in that kind of vibe. And it wasn't really a BattleTech vibe, and I didn't I'm glad that I wasn't here for it, and I'm glad it didn't last. I'm guessing somebody down the road realized it was not what they wanted for BattleTech, and we've found a way to cut it off at the knees and bury it. Right. So we get into here we go spelling. So it says here, page 145, Catalyst. Your editorial staff has got to do a little better job. The former Free Worlds League state of Regulus took the initiative to I can't pronounce the damn word. The word of black remnants, nuclear fire annihilated Blakis. So right here it says Blakis. Up here it says Blake. Here it says black. Typo, computer correctional error, most likely, that did not get visually checked. So once again, I'm not a teacher. I'm not a professor. I'm not an English anything. I obviously have plenty of my own issues when it comes to writing and typing and spelling. That said, here's a thought for you younger techno nuts who think everything done on a computer is stellar. It's not. That would not be there if the editor sat his ass down or her ass down, picked up the physical book or the page by page PDF and read them page, line by letter. Because that's how old school editors used to do stuff. All these wonderful novels that were produced over the decades and centuries, very few of them have typos in them. And they have typos in them because somebody did their damn work. And then at the publisher, then at the printer house where they typeset everything by hand, they doubled and triple checked everything because that's how they did things. Now we use computers and everybody just assumes or just lets the computer do the stuff. And this book has 3 screw ups in it. One way up front, here's the second one, plus that one where we're missing a word altogether. Just saying, get your act together, Catalyst. You have done better than this. Considering how important this book is for Catalyst, really? Y'all need to have a talk to your head of your damn editorial staff because he screwed up. Not saying fire him or nothing for love of Pete. I'm just saying, go, hey man, really? This is bad. Bad typo change? That's bad. Missing the word altogether back here. We're completely missing altogether. Come on. That's beyond bad. Oh, then Devil and Stone, which nobody, as far as I'm concerned, somebody take him out and shoot him. He's worthless. The Master Architect. That was something, one of the rabbit holes I've been digging around in for the last year and a half, was trying to understand the Jihad era, the Jihad era specifically when it comes to BattleTech, and importantly, how this master, how the actual blood son of Thomas Merrick, the actual blood relation to Giles, ends up being this psychopathic master guy, and this fake Halleck dude is stuck on the throne instead. It's just nuts. So Intersphere 3081. So you can see things have changed again quite radically. The Free Worlds League finally falls apart. We've been armchair historians have been predicting the dissolution of the Free Worlds League since the beginning of the damn game. It took long enough, but they finally got there. And of all the great houses, the one most likely to fracture is the Free Worlds League. So, ideally, though, we should have seen some more fracturing in here. And I think if they were taking the line that they were, that's how it would have progressed under Fan Pro. But once again, we get a change up. Fan Pro and the Clicks guys all go their separate ways, and then Catalyst steps in, and Catalyst is left with a hot mess and a half, and they've done a damn good job of creating, as best they can, a continuing narrative in two eras that they had absolutely no control over, and that the people who were controlling them were doing it with one head in their butt. I'm just saying they had their head up their backside when they were doing some of that, in my opinion. And those of you working at Catalyst or working for Fan Pro at the time, shame on you. Honestly, shame on you. You shouldn't have let that happen. If you had no choice in it, then okay, I'll give you some slack on that stuff. But come on. The Wars of Reaving, another section that I missed out on, and I recently had the luxury of having PDFs given to me so I could read up on a lot of those. And there's still some unanswered questions, and then there's also some questions that are vague or obtuse in a bad way. I don't know that I suspect in part because nobody cared. Their home clans, we really don't give a damn what they do. And two, a time factor. Once again, we're trying to create a beautiful tapestry out of a hot mess of crap that had been left in Catalyst's back in Catalyst's at Catalyst's back door in a bin, would be my guess. So the society, the Shadow War, right? Another aspect of BattleTech I really do like. I do like the ability to have our version of BattleTech's version of James Bond, because there's just rich, the environment's rich for it. I mean, it just absolutely screamed for it. I think it's an awesome addition, and I would like to see an updated version of the oh geez, I'm trying to think of the book off the top of my head. Oh, the one, the operative book or whatever, where you've got all these different the major house intelligence ministries laid out. I think we need an updated version of that book. If we don't have one, I don't know if we do. I mean, there's still books coming out that I don't own, and thankfully, a couple of you specifically, Mark out there, and I give 100% thanks to Mark, because he really goes beyond the effort to let me know when he gets new stuff in that's available, or he points me in directions where I can acquire a free PDF of something, and which is awesome because I would not be able to afford to pay for all that stuff. I'm just being God truthful. I mean, I've already seen somebody else doing a review of the Cretan Force Manual book, I think it's called, or whatever it's called, that has yet to hit the shelf. It was given out to certain people at Gen Con. Gee, Catalyst can't mail me something? No, of course not. Why would you? I'm nobody. I'm not anywhere in the category of a mechanical frog, a Swin, or a damn Big Red. It just, even going to ever get there. But the point is that I guess that they got some really new stuff, really good stuff coming out down the road, and I would dearly love to get the actual physical items, and I will have to play it by ear. It depends on how fast they come out and how expensive they are. I suspect they're going to be in that $40 to $50 range, like usual. End of the Republic Knights and Men, the Inner Sphere, 3130. And the lost command. This God, let's not ever go down that road. Jesus. And I just hope they just get that out of their system or wait till I'm dead. Oh, the wall. Yeah, another big mystery from the inner sphere. This thing that prevented the rest of the houses from getting after Prefecture One of the Republic of the Sphere. And it held until a point that Alec Ward somehow manages to breach the damn thing and bring his entire clan and Jag Falcons with him. Yuri Kurita, Julian Davion. Now, recently, I've had the privilege to read a couple novels. As a matter of fact, there's one I want to do a video on about it. Of the more recent storylines going on, and I really found them interesting and informative. The one on the Draconis Combine really filled in some missing blanks for me, and I understand Yuri much better than I did prior, and Tornaga I understood fairly well, but Yuri, they did a good job of bringing her forward, introducing some of her inner circle, which I suspect we'll see as key players. Excuse my damn gas up the road a little bit. The inner sphere is 3141. And the Ill Clan era. Bring us to Ill Clan era. That is a beast of a machine right there. I love that machine. It looks like a rhino. Is it the stone rhino or just a rhino? I don't know. The Ill Clan era, right? Which we are now in the beginning of, or the opening salvos. Alex captured Terra, and Melvin is dead, and now it's see who's in charge and who ain't in charge. See, it's all a hot mess, right? We get into factions, awesome stuff here, and lots of goals, lots of opportunities. You know, gotta love it, gotta hate it, however you want to do it. All right, future for the compelling Confederation. You know, for as long as the Confederation, the Compellents took were the whoop dogs of the inner sphere for quite a while. What I mean by that is that from the writer's perspective, from the gamer's perspective, the Draconis Combine and the Compelling Confederation were geared to be the black hats, the bad guys. And the Free Worlds League were supposed to be, I don't know, something in between the black hats and the white hats. And then, of course, House Steiner and Federated Sons are going to be, you know, the white hats in the game. And of course, it didn't pan out that way. It never does. And I really think that the Compellents took it on the chin a long time. And it was nice to see them come out ahead for a change. Not only did they more or less recover all the territory lost to them in the Fourth Succession War and afterwards, but they are militarily far stronger now than they have ever been in the history since the First Succession War, and I don't know. There's just more depth to them as a whole, and it's nice to see. But now that we know that they're on top, they've been so for a while. It's about time for them to get their feet knocked out from underneath them, and I suspect that will happen by Alec Ward because that's kind of where they're aiming things at, in my opinions. But you know, you just got to love the houses. The Free Worlds League, I've really been a fan of for decades, and part because it is the hot mess that it is. In a nutshell, the Free Worlds League is a microcosm of the entire inner sphere, and including the near periphery. Because if you look at the within House Merrick itself, remember, go back to that comment I made a little earlier in the video about smaller factions of the many smaller factions of all the houses. The Free Worlds League has the significantly largest amount of actual factions, and in their cases, it's not just minor noble houses, but actual geopolitical factions that were entities unto themselves at one point. And so they're contentious on the best of times, right? I always attributed the Free Worlds League in some aspects to how my family used to be when I was a teenager. You know, we like to pick on each other something fierce. Sometimes pretty ugly picking. We get some pretty ugly disagreements. But boy, a third party step in, somebody step in that's not part of the family and gets involved, then both whoever is the family all of a sudden close ranks and turn everything loose on the individual had to, that was stupid enough to get into the middle of a family situation. Which is why I found the Free Worlds League as being so interesting and accommodating. So you could have numerous adventures and campaigns within the FWR the FWL and never leave it. You never have to deal with another house faction if you didn't want to, because it was all such a hot mess, right? So it's always interesting, and then of course I like the little bits where we talk about where they think the future will take them, and we will see. I mean, there's so much opportunity, so much beautiful stuff. The clans, oh, the clans. I have mixed opinions. I like the clans. I do. I've as a faction, I've played against them numerous times back in the day. I played a few of them as the faction. Uh, the opportunities are there. What I don't like about a lot of the clans is they're two dimensional. They're just too much two dimensional, and that shows up in some of the reading and writing, the novels. Matter of fact, I made a comment on one of my novels not that long ago about that. I felt that the author had been rushed toward the end, and it showed, and that his bad guys were way too dimensional. It was just too. There was no substance to them at all, right? Which is sad, right? It's just like we talk about the clan, and I know that there's no immediate future down or even distant future planning to involve the home clans in anything, because the home clans, no matter how great the adders and the vipers or whatever they get themselves to be, or is it by cloud cobras, whatever they get themselves to be, they're not going to have enough numbers to come to the inner sphere and pull a repeat of the invasion, not and survive it. So that's just a hard cold fact. I expect them to stay isolated, although it would be nice once in a while for Catalyst to throw a bone into the game for people who like those factions to have that. Well, this is what's going on back in their space, kind of segue once in a blue moon. It's just the possibilities are there. Scorpion Empire, Clan Goliath. I couldn't help but note the similarities between the Scorpion, Clan Glass Scorpion's obsession with Starleague era technology and Starleague era anything. They were obsessed with it, almost on a religious obsession with it. So when I first read about these guys and I got thinking about them, I started thinking, we know Cranston Snord is from the clans. It says in the book that the various lore books that Cranston Snord was a member of Clan Wolf and somehow finagled his way into the recon mission that the Wolf's Dragoons took on the Inner Sphere. And yet, based off of both his obsession with finding lost treasure and lost treasure in general, and the mindset of the Glass Scorpions, I have to say that maybe, just maybe, y'all need to retro Cranston Snord's history a little bit. Maybe he came from Clan Wolf, but that's because he was captured as he somehow or another he was considered a problem even for the Glass Scorpions. So they arranged for him to lose to a Clan Wolf trial, just so they could get rid of him. I'm just saying. Just saying, just tossing that out there, right? Cranston Snort, God, that is one lovable. I love that guy. That character is something else, and his whole unit was something else. And they still are. They really are still are, I think, what I can tell of them, right? So we get the Periphery. The Magistrate Canopus, my favorite mine's a toss up. Magistrate in turns always been a toss up. These people need to pull they need to pull on their collective bootstraps and pull their pants up and get their act together, because that's just Are you kidding me? Then we get the minor states, the barrens, the deep periphery. So we get a couple new regions out here in the deep periphery or in the periphery, but nothing spectacular. And I point out Wolf Dragoons, and so we get some key mercenary units. I'm currently reading a short a book of short stories on mercenaries. It includes one from somebody dealing with the Eridani Light Horse, the Kellhounds, of course, Three Death Legion, Noble Mercenaries, Atari Lancers, the Hanson Rough Riders, a solid unit right there. The Highlanders. The thing with the mercenaries, when we're talking about well, maybe I'm just thinking off on something else. Oh, that wasn't what I was talking about. The periphery. One of the issues I've had with the periphery is that we don't have enough crap on the periphery. I mean, and then they'll say, well, we're not focused on the periphery, and I get that. I mean, I truly understand. Wish we'd had a map there somewhere. That would have been nice. A periphery map. That ain't gonna happen. So, is a periphery map? Right. The reason I say that is because I want to bring your attention to lots of spaces around this here, and over here, back out here, where there ought to be more than less. We should see more little small whatever's out there, little micro nations or whatever, and micro states, individual planets. We know they're there. We know they're there. Historically speaking, we know they're there, right? I mean, at one time, the Outworlds Alliance, not the Outworlds Alliance, the Amherst Republic, whatever. They were located out here, but they encompass a huge area, hundreds of worlds that are missing. It's just like we know at the height of the Star League that the Outwards Alliance actually included 3 or 4 times the space that they currently have and have had since 3025. So that there was, they call it the outback out there for a reason, but that doesn't change the fact that there are a lot of colonies out that way that were abandoned or left to their own, abandoned or wanted, achieve their own autonomy or quote lost that have yet to be exploited inside the game world. But on the other side of that, that provides us all with a massive amount of opportunities for blank space for us to create our own kind of stuff. So it's a literal universal possibility. I mean, if you are a huge BattleTech fan, even if you know somebody who's a fan of science fiction in general, maybe not so much in role-playing games and they don't know what war games are, you're looking for a Christmas gift. This would be an awesome gift to give to your friend, your gaming buddy, or your gaming kid, or your gaming grandkid, to give them some inspiration. Because there's a lot of beautiful reading going on in here. There's no mechanics, no rule sets. That's not what it's for. And once again, like I said, if I had a coffee table out front, I have an ottoman, unfortunately, and I have a towel on it because the cats are always on it, either throwing hairballs up or eating on it, and so I'm not putting nothing on it. And it's hard enough to put anything in here without having to cover it with something else to keep the hair off of it and the cats from throwing up on it, etc., etc. Anyhow, I'm Rick. You're not. BattleTech Universe, the 40-year anniversary, 40 years. 40 years? How's that right? 40 years. Yeah, I suppose so. It was 1984. So I would have been 17 years old, still in high school. I was a junior that year, and I believe I was working for Pizza Hut. I was working at a place called Hilltop. The Hilltop Pizza Hut was over on the east side of Des Moines, Iowa, and a little place that probably only had seating for about 20 or 30 people. And on a Friday, Saturday night, we'd have a backlog. We'd have a backlog 2, 3 hours long. You want to order a pizza order, it could take 3 hours before we can get to it, and they'd still want that order. I mean, honestly, they still would. We would take their phone numbers down and call back and say, "Okay, we're just starting your pizza now," kind of thing. And I know because I'd spend Friday and Saturday nights, a lot of nights coordinating that damn oven. So you'd stack all these pizzas. It'd be stacked three, four, five. Stagger them on top of each other to stack them up on top of the oven, and you'd have to. Somebody's sole job was to make sure everything went in by the oldest item first. It was not fun. Not my idea of fun. So, like I said, this is an excellent gift, excellent book, worth having, in my opinion. An excellent addition to anybody's damn bookcase, especially when it comes to understanding what BattleTech is. If you don't play BattleTech and you've always wanted to kind of know, great. This is a great way to get that information, to understand the universe and how it revolves to a limited degree. Of course, you get out of what you get out of it. Till next time.